Okay, so I'll do a quick video on the final milestone 1 for the final project. So milestone 1 for the final project is on the schedule for the 20th or 21st of March. So when you come back from spring break, you want to start talking with your team about which task as a team you want to do. And so each team needs to select one task. So if you look at the final project requirements, we can go through and we can look at there's a part delivery task, there's a harvesting task, there's a health monitoring task. And as a team, you're going to want to decide which one do you want to do. That's milestone 1 for the final project, just determining which tasks you want to do. Now, as you have teams of 3 or 4, you also want to start thinking about how you're going to break down the project. A good, easy, straightforward, very helpful way to separate these final projects are to separate them into subparts. So a common subpart would be somebody needs to program the robot to follow a straight line or a curved line. Another person will need to program the robot to make sharp right or left turns. A third person could program the robot to identify when it's in a stall or a black square and move forward, turn around, and get ready to then continue after the push button gets hit. So those are 3 very distinct, very separate things that need to happen. And as you start working in parallel, it'll be good to identify specific parts that you're going to program for, because you don't want to program the same thing. You don't want to all be working on the same thing. You want to break this up and divide the work across the team members. If you have a 4th person on the team, that person can really start looking at how you're going to combine the code. The key here is variables. What names are you going to call your variables, and making sure everybody's using the same or unique, right? Variables, and how those are going to play with each other. If you have a team of 3, don't worry. This is just going to require just a little bit more communication between the 3 members versus the 4th member on the 4-member teams. That person will take that responsibility. So once you've identified which project task you want to do, you'll come back here and you'll fill out the final milestone 1. It's just a Google form survey, email, last name. You'll select your team number. You'll come in here, you'll identify which part you're going to do, or which task you're going to do, and also you're going to identify a team leader by last name. That just helps me when I talk to all the teams. I can call one person to be that point person for your team. One last thing that might be helpful as you start thinking through and kind of game planning, dividing up the tasks. There is a development and testing. There's some things here. We're going to talk about the theory of operation for how the robot works and how we can use the sensors and the motors and the compass to work for us to get through the maze. But one thing here is the course sections. This is a PDF of a bunch of different sections of the course. So sharp right turn, stalls, curves, dots for where you need to offload if you're harvesting, easy curves, separated home position from the curve, right? These are all sections of the courses that, or the mazes, that will be helpful for you. You can print these off, have them on your desk, and you can do your testing, your bench testing, and your desk testing to troubleshoot and to test your code as you're working on, specifically going into a stall or turning down that curve. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful to get your team started and get your team thinking about the things it's going to need to start looking at. There's some other stuff we'll talk about when I get back. Flowchart best practices and example flowcharts. We're going to want to start putting the concept of what the robot needs to do into a flowchart. Before we write any line of code, we want to have a flowchart of some sort to help just identify the main steps that the robot needs to do. And as we write the program, we're going to make those steps more and more detailed. Okay, good luck.